Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Fed Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today is August 21st, 2024, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, we're watching the euro continue to climb versus the US dollar, and this is all anticipation into today's major economic events, which will happen tonight at 8 p.m. South African time. Out of the United States, we have an FOMC meeting minutes, which is a follow-up to the last interest rate decision. It may give us some clues moving forward. Now, looking at the market, starting out with the Forex symbols, the major pairs continue to gain versus the US dollar. And as we shift over to the indices, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ take a pause. And looking at the commodities, gold gives up some of its new record high gains yesterday. And looking at the stocks, they're really mixed going into this number. And lastly, Bitcoin remains unchanged. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So we don't do this often, but every so often you gotta, okay? And what is this? We're looking at the Euro USD, made a huge move to the upside. Gotta revert back to kind of historic data to give us some reference points where we are right now. So if you look at the chart, it's a huge spike. For the Euro USD, we went from 107 to 111. That's 400 pips. And relatively, for the Euro USD to do that in a 2-week or 3-week time frame, it's quite short. And you could see that on the chart right here. You see that nice spike here. Now, we're at 11.25 right now. Okay, this has been a point of contention and resistance for quite some time. Okay, so yes, has it hit this level? It's got to continue holding at this level for it to maybe break out. And that would be a big turning point for the euro against the US dollar. And looking at the GBP USD, it's petering out here as it's made a little bit higher than its previous high when it moved that V formation. Looking at the Australian dollar, also making some gains versus US buck. That's a big deal for the Australian dollar as well. Now looking at Japanese yen, it's just holding, not trading much lower. It's just holding itself right now. Now moving over to commodities, okay, this becomes very interesting. We said that gold would spike in one room or another. It hit its all-time record highs at 25.05, was churning for quite some time, and then we got a big spike yesterday and then a correction to the spike, all right? But altogether, we're still higher than where we were before, about 5 or 8 points, somewhere in that range, as that is showing us it's still strong, okay? Hasn't necessarily made a definitive move to the upside and held on to it, but at this stage, it's kind of like made its move, at least for now. Now looking at crude oil, really unchanged here on the bottom at $73 a barrel. I don't expect much change there. I do expect a little bit of a bounce, and in case we don't get it, it might go even lower. Now looking at the US markets, unchanged, okay? They are just pausing from yesterday's activity. You could just see that very, very tight move. Looking at the NASDAQ as well, relatively a very tight intraday move. Now, the stocks were pretty much all together. They were a little bit non-directional. NVIDIA actually sold off a little bit from 127 down to 125. Not a big deal. Cisco holding on to its gains and gaining a little bit further. Okay, so it's a mixed bag here. Not everything traded in tandem. JP Morgan didn't do much yesterday, just hanging out on its resistance-ish level, especially as we're getting that big FOMC meeting minutes today. It's going to make some tidal waves in the markets. I mean, everybody's just clinging on to the Federal Reserve of the United States to see what they're going to do next. Now, lastly, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Really unchanged from day to day, just turning here between 58 and 60K. And unless it breaks somewhere out of that, you're not going to see much of activity. And it is the summer trading. Just remember, although we had some massive moves over the last couple of weeks, it's the latter part of the summer. We're getting into the last 2 weeks of August. And usually that's where the markets taper off right before we start trading back in September. This is Fed Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.